We are happy you tuned in, and we invite you to be our guest as we listen to Reverend Cindy Osgood, pastor of Van Buren United Methodist Church.
If you would like to sponsor the Van Buren United Methodist Church so they can be heard on this radio station WCJC, please contact Pastor Cindy Osgood at 260-273-2915 or cindy.osgood at inumc.org.
Our text for Sunday morning for today is 1 Corinthians 18 to 31, and it reads a little bit like gibberish, but it talks about wise and foolish. And if you really think about the story of the gospel, it's hard to understand how a God could love us and really ask nothing of us except to believe and to have faith. But yet people make that into something that's just crazy. And why would we want to believe it? And why should we believe it? But yet it has the power to save. It has the power to change our lives. And for that reason alone, it's worth believing. It's worth taking heart in. And so we hear this lesson from the book of 1 Corinthians, beginning with verse 18, going to verse 31. Paul is in prison in Ephesus, but he hears about the Corinthian church, and so he's writing to them. And Corinth was a community of a lot of things happening. It was a very large community in Greece. A lot of immorality, a lot of inappropriate behavior, and he was hearing rumors about all of that. And so he's writing to help those who are new to the Christian community to understand what it meant to be a Christian, what it meant to be a follower of Jesus Christ. And so we hear these words from 1 Corinthians this morning. For the message about the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved it is the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and the discernment of the discerning I will thwart. Where is the one who is wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the debater of this age? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of the world? For since in the wisdom of God the world did not know God through wisdom, God decided through the foolishness of our proclamation to save those who believe. For Jews demand sign and Greeks desire wisdom, but we proclaim Christ crucified, a stumbling block to Jews and foolishness to the Gentiles. But to those who are the called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ the power of God and the wisdom of God. For God's foolishness is wiser than human wisdom, and God's weakness is stronger than human strength. Consider your own call, brothers and sisters. Not many of you were wise by human standards, but not many were powerful. Not many were of noble birth, but God chose what is foolish in the world to shame the wise. God chose what is weak in the world to shame the strong. God chose what is low and despised in the world, and things that are not, to reduce to nothing things that are, so that no one might boast in the presence of God. He is the source of your life in Christ Jesus, who became for us wisdom from God and righteousness and sanctification and redemption, in order that it is written, let the one who boasts boast in the Lord. The problem we have is that the Jews in that day, they wanted to see signs, they wanted to see miracles, they wanted to see miraculous actions so that they could believe who Jesus was and that he was who he said he was. The Greeks were questioning. They were all about being wisdom. They didn't believe in a bodily resurrection, so how could this one who died and was crucified possibly be resurrected? And so they had some skepticism about the whole issue of Jesus Christ. But yet we hear in this text that God chooses that which is less, that which is lesser, as Luke writes to those, the least, the lost, and the lonely. Those are the ones to whom God reveals God's self, so that they can hear and see and experience the wisdom of God. You know, it's hard to understand how this message, as I said earlier, that God came into the world as a baby, became a human being, grew up, had a public ministry for 3 years, chose a brand of rogue fishermen and tax collectors and assorted other people to become his disciples. He taught them and preached to them and gave them skills, equipped them to be disciples, to go out into the world and to do the work that he called them to do. And in fact, in the text that Holly read to you, that text comes after the disciples have returned from their first preaching mission. He sent them out. He said, take nothing with you. Take no bag, take no stick, take no clothing. Just take yourselves and go out and preach and teach. And if they don't hear you, move on to the next town. But you'll be able to do miraculous things. Now, if somebody said to us, I'm going to send you out into the world, but I don't want you to take a suitcase. I don't want you to take anything with you. I just want you to take yourself. Our first inclination would be to say, but, I need this, and I need this, and I need this, and I need that, and I need this in order to go. No, you don't. We don't need any of that stuff to go. Because if we believe in God, God will provide. You get to somebody's house, you wash your hair, I need a hair dryer. Well, I'm going to provide one. Of course, back in those days, they didn't have hair dryers. They didn't have blow dryers and all that stuff and curling irons. But if we were to send you out today and tell you don't take any of that stuff, and you landed in somebody's house and you said, hey, I need a blow dryer before I go out for the day, they'd take care of you. But anyway, they've gone out and they've preached. They've been gone for many days, and they've come back and they've reported to Jesus about what happened. And they were probably as amazed as Jesus was, because they didn't know that they could do those things. And Jesus is telling them, blessed are those who have seen what you have seen and heard what you have heard, because there are others who won't understand it. And so he taught that message of love and that message of grace and that message of loving people that other people didn't love and who despised and who broke the Jewish laws, who broke the Jewish commandments. But yet he said, you are my sheep. And then he would pay the price of the greatest death of all, the death on the cross, the worst death anybody could endure, so that you and I could obtain the gift of forgiveness, obtain the gift of salvation, obtain the gift of resurrection and everlasting life. Now, does that make any sense on the surface? Think about that for just a minute. Does that really make any sense? No, it doesn't. But it is what it is. And it's a miraculous method. And if we're able to hear it because we've experienced God's presence in our life, we can understand it. We can believe it because we have seen God work in our lives. But there are people out there who say, that's just about a bunch of hooey. Why would God want to save me? I haven't done anything wrong. I haven't done anything awful and evil. And after all, I'm the most popular, the most smart, intelligent person in the world. I don't need God. I can do anything I need to do. My money, my whatever will take care of everything I need to do. But it will not, friends. It will not buy salvation. Intelligence will not buy security of eternal life. Money and prosperity and wisdom will not purchase salvation. It will not purchase the gift of grace that God offers to us without price. Is that right? You believe that? But there are people out there who think that they are smarter, they are wiser, they are better than, they are the most important, and there's nothing that God could possibly do for them. So why should I bother? And so they look at us who are sitting here on Sunday morning and thinking, why do you spend your time doing that? Because they cannot understand it. They cannot believe it. It's fundamentally foolishness and unintelligent for them to think about doing it. But we who are everyday people, we are the people that God calls into ministry. We are the people that God calls and says, I want you. I've chosen you from the very beginning. Each one of us is chosen. Each one of us was given a name. God knows us. And he has called each and every one of us into his presence and said, I have a gift for you. And he offers that to even the wisest and the most intelligent person as well. It's not an offer unavailable to anybody. It's not an offer that's made only to just a few. It's out there for everybody who wants it. It's just a matter of whether you can get yourself past the craziness of the whole thing to say, yeah, I think I'll take up on that. But some folks can't see that. Surely I have to buy something. Surely I have to do something. Surely there must be something I have to do in order to get that. And there isn't anything like that. You know, I think I've said this to you here, but I know I've said it in a previous congregation, and I've heard it back a couple times over. You mean to tell me that I can't bake enough pies and cakes and serve enough funeral dinners in order to earn the grace of God? No. Now, if you want to keep buying into that foolishness, you go right ahead. But there isn't enough stuff that you can do to earn the grace and the unconditional merit and favor of God. It's simply there, available. God says, I made you, I created you, I want you, I've chosen you. Here I am, take me. But we can't get ourselves past the idea that, well, nothing in life is free, right? So there's surely got to be a trick somewhere. There's surely got to be a hang-up somewhere that I've got to do. Nope. All you have to do is say yes. Now, you do have to try to follow the rules. You do have to try to follow the way that he wants you to walk and the way he wants you to go. And that's not always easy. But still, we are promised an assurance of everlasting life, even by simply saying yes. He knows we're not going to be perfect. He knows we're not going to come up to the full standard. But the job we have is to make every effort to try, to make every effort to be good disciples, to be good sheep. You know, those 12 fellows that he picked, oh, mercy. You know, there's that one that starts with a P, Peter. You know, he fouled up from the very beginning. You know, he's down there on the ground shoveling around. Oh, I'm a sinful man. You better get away from me. You don't want me. From the very beginning of calling, Peter's already saying, you don't want me in this group. And all the way through, who is it that opens his trap and gets himself in trouble? None other than Peter. And who is it that Jesus doesn't just miraculously, not just circumstantially say to him, not once, not twice, but 3 times, Peter, do you love me? Feed my sheep. There's purpose in that. And that's the way it is for us. We're going to mess up. We're going to foul up. But yet Jesus says, come on. I'm here. I am the, with my yoke, your burden is easy. I want you to hear this text from Peterson for just a minute. Because it puts, like I said, it puts a little spin on things. The message that points to Christ on the cross seems like sheer silliness to those who are bent on destruction. But for those on the way of salvation, it makes perfect sense. I mean, it's like I said, it's crazy. This whole method, this whole notion is just crazy. It's silliness. But yet it works. It works if we have faith in God. This is the way God works. And the more powerfully, as it turns out, it's written, I'll turn conventional wisdom on its head, and I'll expose so-called experts as crackpots. You know, some people think Joel Osteen is just the most wonderful thing in the world. But I'm going to tell you, in my book, that man is a crackpot. Because you aren't going to get it by wealth and happy days. If you listen to him very long, your life's going to be wonderful. Your life's going to be grand. God's going to float you a big pot full of money down the pathway some one of these days, and your life's just going to be marvelous. I have yet to hear him talk about grace. I have yet to hear him talk about the rough road ahead. That man is a crackpot. This is the stuff we need to be listening to. So where can you find someone truly wise, truly educated, and truly intelligent in this day and age? Boy, is that not prophetic. Hasn't God exposed it all as pretentious nonsense? Since the world in all of its fancy wisdom never had a clue when it came to knowing God, God in his wisdom took delight in using what the world considered stupid. And there are people out here who think that what we do on Sunday morning is just ridiculous. That's why these pews aren't full on Sunday morning, because they think what we're doing is just nuts. Why would we want to spend an hour on Sunday morning coming to talk about God who cannot be seen and who cannot be understood? Why in the world would I want to spend an hour coming to worship him? That's just ridiculous. But unless you have had a personal encounter with the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, then you know it's not silliness and you know it's not foolish. And that's why we have to be the ones who are out there telling about that foolishness and about that silliness. That is truth. That is important information. It's important good news that the foolish and the silly folks need to hear about. While Jews clamor for miraculous demonstrations and Greeks go in for philosophical wisdom, we go right on proclaiming Christ the crucified. Jews treat this like an anti-miracle, and Greeks pass it off as absurd. But to us who are personally called by God himself, both Jews and Greeks, Christ is God's ultimate miracle, and wisdom all wrapped up into one. Human wisdom is so tiny and so impotent next to the seeming absurdity of God, human strength can't begin to compete with God's weakness. Take a look, friends, at who you were when you got called into this life. I don't see many of the brightest and the best among you, not many influential, not many high society families. Isn't it obvious that God deliberately chose men and women that the culture overlooks, exploits, and abuses? Chose those nobodies to expose the hollow pretensions of the somebodies. That makes it quite clear that none of us can get by with blowing our own horn before God. Everything that we have, right thinking, right living, a clean slate, and a fresh start comes from God by Jesus Christ. That's why we have the saying, if you're going to blow a horn, blow a trumpet for God. Don't be out tooting your own horn. Be tooting the horn of God. This is not foolish stuff. This is not stupid stuff. This is not silly stuff. This is important stuff because people's lives depend upon it. And we have to go out and proclaim that message and help them to understand that it's not silly, it's not stupid, it's absurd, it's life-changing, it's life-benefiting, and it's life-valuing. May you know that God's foolishness is the truth rather than absurdity in your life. Amen.
If you would like to sponsor the Van Buren United Methodist Church so they can be heard on this radio station WCJC, please contact Pastor Cindy Osgood at 260-273-2915 or cindy.osgood at inumc.org.
We want to thank you for being a part and remind you that every Sunday morning at 9:30 we meet in the sanctuary at the Van Buren United Methodist Church. We would love to have you come and be a part of us here in Van Buren, or join us on the air again next week.